Hey folks, welcome to Unqualified, the fantasy football podcast that's been jumping turnstiles in the subway since 2017. I'm your producer Rob Diesendorf here with Sean Brady and Scott Johnson, two fantasy football rivals that have been sabotaging each other for years, but they decided to come together to help you win your league and make your friends look like idiots. How's it going, fellas?
Great. I feel like you have a story there, and I don't try to do that because I will just break something.
Yeah, I've never had to go there. I'm not saying I wouldn't go there, but I haven't been in that situation yet, so I'm very excited to hear about this.
Do tell.
Well, I've never had to go there before either until this morning, which I was up at the crack of dawn to get to work, and I sprinted to the subway station. I ran the whole way. I got there, I run down the stairs, I get to the turnstile, I hear over the loudspeaker in the station, the L train is coming in 0 minutes. And then I start panicking, I swipe my card, and of course, it never works on the first try. It says swipe again.
Never works on the first try.
I swipe it again. It says, please swipe again at this turnstile. I swipe again. It says, please swipe again. I go for a fourth time. Swipe again. Nope. Okay, now I'm switching turnstiles. I go to another one. Swipe it. Please swipe again. I swipe it one more time. Insufficient funds. At that point, the train was already pulled up. The doors were opening. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I just jumped it, ran on the train. And then I was just, for the rest of the train ride, fully expecting there to be police as the doors open.
You didn't have to go through another set of stairs after the turnstile? Because that would have been
no,
that would have been crazy. No. Oh, you're lucked out then, because I could just picture you like taking like 8 steps at a time and just like busting your ankle on
or falling.
Yeah. No, I've consistently been sweating on the subway.
Oh, it's that time of year.
Usually
every single morning.
Usually there's cops like right in the beginning of stations, so I'm surprised there weren't any there.
Well, that's because I was up at the crack of dawn.
Ass dawn? Is that different than regular dawn?
It's because I was up at the crack of ass.
Crack of ass dawn.
You know?
Well, hey, 4 swipes is pretty nice of you to try.
Yeah, you gave your best shot.
It was pretty exhilarating, and honestly, I felt justified in doing so. And I also felt a little bit redeemed for being robbed by the subway prices for the past year.
I mean, I'm glad you feel that way. The FBI guy that bugs our conversation, I'm sure will feel differently. But I'm glad that you're okay with it, because that's really what all that matters. Because if you didn't feel okay with it, it probably would have ruined your day. You probably would have been freaking out the whole day. So,
oh yeah,
glad it worked.
FBI guy, Rob has paid his taxes and everything else, though. So
yeah,
back off.
Exactly.
Back off, buddy.
Lay off.
This is not your lane.
He's not
so
your
week
lane.
1. Yeah. Stay in your lane.
Whoa. You finished
Liv Moss. That was honestly truly a Liv Moss moment.
Oh, I kind of like that. We should get Taco Bell to reach out and sponsor even more of our lives.
It really was. Can Taco Bell sponsor my commute?
That'd be nice. Maybe your card wouldn't run out. It would
I feel like
unlimited.
that's the least they could do.
Yeah. The amount of Crunchwrap Supremes you eat. Actually, for the publicity we get them, yeah. The unwanted
right?
probably publicity, but you're welcome anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, they shouldn't take us for granted. Like, we might start, pushing some competitors. Like, for example, who had the Whopper game of week 1 today? What do you think, Scott? Week 1.
The Whopper game?
I'm just playing Taco Bell. You're still our one and only true love. But let's transition to week 1, because things got a little nuts, as they always do in week 1 of the NFL season. And there's probably a lot of fantasy owners out there that are deeply unhappy with how week 1 went. Yeah, that's pretty much how week 1 goes every year.
Me.
Even if you win, you feel like you missed out on something you should have seen, or you benched someone that you should have played, and week 1 is just there to make you feel like an idiot. So you're not alone. I'm probably going to go 2-1 this week. Oh, maybe. I shouldn't jinx myself. And I still feel like a complete buffoon when I look at all the fantasy scores around the league. So don't freak out too much. But with that being said, we're going to go into, like we will every week for the rest of the regular season, who went off and who got hurt, because that's usually kind of the biggest storylines that come out.
Yeah, so keep in mind, we're recording this throughout the season. We're probably going to be recording on Monday nights. So during the Monday night game, we won't have any updates on the Monday night games. We're releasing them on Wednesdays, which is what you're listening to right now, and Fridays. But who went off in terms of Sunday this in week 1? Lamar Jackson to Hollywood Brown. Pat Mahomes to Sammy Watkins. Just two insane duos that I think are here to stay. What do you think?
Yeah, I love both of these guys. I own Lamar on one team. I have Hollywood on 2 teams, like just randomly, because I was like, oh, he's probably going to be pretty good.
You have Hollywood Brown on 2 teams?
I had no idea this was coming. I thought maybe he would be good eventually. I didn't think week 1, quarter 1, he would have 2 touchdowns that were like 48-plus yards each. He has well surpassed my expectations so far. And it's really just like winning the lottery, because I would be lying to you if I thought that I saw this coming. I just kind of took a flyer, and I'm feeling very happy about it, because the craziest part of this is he didn't even play 20 snaps, and he had like 4 or 5 catches for like 140 something yards and 2 touchdowns.
It's ridiculous.
So on a per snap basis, he is like unreal at the moment.
Maybe a little unsustainable, but still a lot of fun to watch. He's lightning fast, cousin of Antonio Brown, of course. Who got hurt? Nick Foles, name a few here. Nick Foles, not that anyone really had him on their team, but broken collarbone on the IR, I believe. Eligible to return in week 11. Oof. Tyreek Hill, another guy, really tough injury here for a lot of people that took him in the first or second round. And he's an IR eligible candidate as well. So that's a tough blow. I mean, Sammy Watkins went off in this game, so I don't think that offense will lose that much. They definitely will lose his speed down the field, but I mean, this is a tough blow for owners. I know I have him in one league. Rob, I know you have him in another league, but Nicole Hardman is a pickup. Put Tyreek Hill in your IR. He's going to be out for a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I feel like the Chiefs and the Patriots are some of the only teams, maybe the Eagles are in this discussion too, of teams that can lose a guy like Tyreek Hill and still have probably a top 5 offense in the league.
Yeah.
It's like, they just, Tyreek Hill's out, so Sammy Watkins will have 49 PPR fantasy points in week 1. Like, it just will find a way to work.
It hits
and,
different.
They still have Travis Kelce. I'm sure he's going to get a little bit of an uptick. And the running backs looked actually great. I was a little surprised to see how great Shady McCoy looked. Obviously, we all kind of wrote him off, but a lot of that might have been the situation in Buffalo, because he had 10 rushes for 81 yards, and Damian Williams got in the end zone. I mean, this offense, maybe just the allocation of points gets shuffled around among the position groups a little bit, but that offense is just too much fun to watch.
Completely agree. Another offense is fun to watch. Chargers, Mike Williams had a little scare with his knee. Should be fine. He shouldn't miss any time, but that was a tough week 1 for him too. 2 catches, 29 yards, and looked nothing like what we thought he would look like. But it's not time to freak out. Week 1 is for patience, and I don't have it, but. Another couple injuries. Baker Mayfield should be fine. Hurt his hand. Joe Mixon, everything turned back negative for his ankle. But I would pick up Giovanni Bernard if you're a Mixon owner, for sure, 100% right now. Two running backs I don't want to talk about really quick before we move on to trends this week. That it doesn't look good for either one. Darius Geis on Washington Redskins and Tevin Coleman on the San Francisco 49ers, both looking at multi-week absences here. So what do you think is... Which one right now, Sean, do you think is worse? Which one should we be picking up the backups if they're out there?
I'm going to kind of like wish-wash between those two. I think Darius Geis' injury sounds worse to me, but I still think that Tevin Coleman's backups are the one you want here. I don't think Chris Thompson is going to stick around and be healthy long enough to be a consistent fantasy option, whereas like Matt Breida in San Francisco, this is all he needed to open the door for him to seize that job from Tevin Coleman. So even if Tevin Coleman only misses like a week or two, I think Breida could really cement himself as the RB1 in that backfield. Washington, I'm just not really loving unless Geis is there healthy. I was really excited about getting him in all 3 leagues, and then instantly, of course, he gets hurt in week 1. It's just how it goes. But I think once he gets back, I think he'll be a pretty solid option. You can kind of look. I think some guys are going to get impatient and drop him a week or two from now, and he might be a nice guy you pick up a few weeks from now that carries you through the start of the bye weeks.
Are we picking up Adrian Peterson? He was inactive this past Sunday because Darius Geis was in the game, but we picking him up?
I saw some comment from one of their coaches that he been like, oh yeah, if there's a game where we're gonna run 50 times or run out of the I formation 20 times, like yeah, he'll be active. So that's not exactly a vote of confidence in Adrian Peterson. I would say if you're desperate, absolutely pick him up, but I'm not really that excited. I think this team showed that they're going to be a lot more pass happy than they were last year anyway. So they're going to sling it with Case Keenum. They're definitely going to be down in a lot of games. And, not that I'm trying to really invest in the wide receiver core there, but if I had to choose between the two, I'd probably go with the pass catchers just because I don't really see them like establishing the ground game every week.
So speaking about pass catchers on Washington or in general, big weekend. Let's talk about trends really quick. Big weekend for big play wide receivers. So we're talking about Hollywood Brown, Sammy Watkins, John Ross on Cincinnati, finally showcasing that.
Rose from the dead.
Yeah, first-round talent. Philip Dorsett, also first-round talent. Deshaun Jackson, back in Philadelphia. DJ Chark on the Jaguars. Terry McLaurin, who we're going to get into his name later. Well, we can just talk about it now. Like what... third-round pick this year. I forget where he went to college, but he's on Washington Redskins. It's just a weird wide receiver name.
Yes, and like he is not at all what you picture when you hear the name Terry McLaurin.
It sounds like a female day TV host.
Yes,
like morning TV,
the Terry McLaurin show.
Yeah,
I mean, like if he had a different name, I would be like touting this guy as like the breakout wide receiver of the year. But the name alone is it's not enough. He has his work cut out for him when it comes to turning that around because the deck has been stacked against him by his parents when they chose that name for him. Unlucky, but you know what? Sometimes you got to just go with your gut here, and with a name like that, I don't think he's going to be a consistent option for you.
In all fairness, McLaurin is it's a tough last name as a wide receiver too. Like Terry, exactly. Yeah, that's not good, but like, yeah. I've never heard of an NFL player named McLaurin.
I would say with
so close to being McLovin.
I know.
Yeah.
That would have been it right there. Like then he would have been probably my number one pickup this week. But Terry
McLovin.
I would say if you miss out on some of the other guys, like in general, I would say don't go crazy and try to invest in every single guy that had a big game this week because you're going to be kind of just chasing a ghost. Some of these guys had their best game of the 2019 season this past week, and you didn't get to cash in on it. But I would say some of these guys, and I'm going to kind of like put a caveat here as well. Some of these guys you need to go out and try to get because they might be the number one receivers on big-time offenses, like Deshaun Jackson. If he becomes Carson Wentz's go-to target, first off, it's bad news for Zach Ertz and even for Alshon Jeffrey. But that's great because you can just get him for free off the waiver wire. Sammy Watkins, we already mentioned with Tyreek Hill's injury, and then Hollywood Brown. Look, if the Ravens are all of a sudden going to throw the ball that effectively, and we'll talk a little bit later about whether that was just them facing the Dolphins. I mean, Hollywood Brown could be, I am using this very timidly, but Odell Beckham Jr. type rookie year. That's the ceiling we're clearly looking at with a guy this explosive.
Why would it be between that and McLovin? That and Muhammad. Why the fuck would it be between that and Muhammad?
Yeah, Terry. Oh, Terry. Poor Terry. Okay, time to do some of our quick recap segments, and these first two are very similar. We're going to do our best to differentiate them throughout the year, but this first one is our bad haircut fantasy regret of the week. And so basically we're going to walk through one thing people were probably regretted from this week and liken it to a disastrous haircut that may or may not have happened to one of us in our lives. This week's is pretty easy if you just look at what happened yesterday. Benching Sammy Watkins. Yikes. That's
Bad
a big
look.
regret. I would say this brings me all the way back to my childhood. This is the frosted tips of fantasy regrets. Because in hindsight, obviously, we look back on it today and we go, oh, you know what? That was a terrible look. It was not a good idea. But at the time, everyone else seemed to be doing it. So it kind of made sense. And those of us that avoided benching Sammy Watkins, I actually never got frosted tips, thankfully.
I did.
Just skated out scot-free, if you will, feeling great about ourselves. But, I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but benching Sammy Watkins equals frosted tips.
Bad look. Bad look now, but you know what? At the time, 3rd to 5th grade, I rocked that shit.
And you know what? There's so many other people that were in it with you. So it's not the worst bad haircut regret out there.
True.
Because you weren't alone. There's so many other people that share the experience with you.
I once did the frosted tip faux hawk.
Ooh.
David Beckham.
I do remember that. We might have to post that for the listeners at some point.
Yeah, that was not a good time in my life.
That was
frosted tip week.
Rob in his bag.
That was a dark time.
That's slaps.
That was when that was when I was unabashedly on my bullshit.
When you abashedly, how do you say? Never mind. Unabashedly. Anyway,
give up.
We'll come back to it. Don't worry. Let's move on to our next one. Our turn down the music # canceled player of the week. Joining Kenyon Drake, who, might I add, great call by us.
Good call.
Joining Kenyon Drake, we have 3 nominees. I don't even know which one I want to pick because they all disappointed. Mitch Trubisky, who a lot of people are going to forget, had a terrible game on Thursday just because so much crap happened yesterday. They're going to totally blank on the fact that Mitch was awful the entire first week. I would throw Jameis Winston in that category as well. I think those are our front runners right now. And then Sonny Michel disappointed as well. But I think it's more inexcusable for those 2 quarterbacks. So who do you guys think? Who's canceled? # canceled
Sony
this week.
Sonny Michel, easily.
Really?
I took him in the 3rd fucking round. 3rd fucking round.
God.
He failed me too.
Stupid ass league and 15 carries for 14 yards. I'm done talking about him.
Oof.
I'm benching his ass though. I don't know
me and
why
Scott
I
both
talked
took
myself
him.
into it.
You guys have a lot of the same players. I'm beginning to notice. This is very interesting.
Tyreek Hill, Sonny Mitchell, Michelle, whatever the frick his name is.
Are we # canceling him? Are we doing this?
Yeah,
I'm pissed.
I'm pissed.
Royally pissed.
I'm pissed.
Really pissed.
All right, so the results are inconclusive. I'm still throwing Mitch into the ether there because he was so bad. I was watching that game and every play for the Bears team, even a run play, I was just like, oh, Mitch is terrible. I was like, even the way he just handed that ball off. Yeah, exactly. Yikes. So they're all skating on thin ice there. Let's keep moving to more of our negative recap segments. This one is a lot of fun. Our fantasy hangover, and we're going to describe this in epic detail. This hangover might be familiar to those of you out there. I'm just going to let Scott describe it for us because I feel like you're going to do a great job of this. But the fantasy implication here is drafting Antonio Brown. So we're going to liken this to a type of hangover for you.
Yeah. So the type of hangover, I don't know if you have the creative juices flowing right now, people, if you're thinking about it, but drafting Antonio Brown with all this tumultuous offseason and then all the bullshit he just pulled to get on the Patriots, it's like having a night so crazy that you wake up missing, it's gone, your lateral incisor, Mike Tyson's tiger in the bathroom, and a crying baby in the closet, and chickens clucking, things on fire, things smoking up. We're not sure if AB is the tooth, the tiger, the baby, the smoking chair, Mike Tyson in the scenario, but all of it works. He's all of the above, and that's all we can say about that.
What an emotional roller coaster this has been. I know Rob over there is an Antonio Brown owner because we were just going back and forth all week. Yeah, don't you and Stern own him in the Brady Bros League?
No way.
Oh, Connor owns him. That's who it is.
I stayed away.
Yeah, you were
You
very
listened to the
lucky.
pod. Smart.
That's who it was. I got you guys mixed up with Connor. Connor was freaking out all week. He just kept texting us AB with the eyeball emoji and like AB. And then it was like every 2 hours there was a new update. It was just getting nuts.
You could do that every day. With him.
Yeah.
I actually stayed away via your recommendations, by the way.
You know what? What's kind of weird is you kind of wound up in a way more interesting spot with the Patriots now, but it was not worth the aggravation. I'm just going to go out there and say it was not worth it.
I agree.
You actually might do okay. Well, jury's out.
Pants.
You never know. We'll see how he does.
Oh, boy. Well, I'm sure we'll be tracking that as we go, just like we'll be tracking our beauty sleepers here. And I didn't think this would go as well as it did for my beauty sleepers.
Yeah, Jesus.
To the point where I only own one of these guys on one team, so even I didn't think it would go that well that I invested that heavily in them. But Lamar Jackson, Austin Eckler, Anthony Miller, who was like the lone dud there, and Mark Andrews. Like 3 of those guys went off and were like top 5 in their position. So I think I definitely won week 1 of the Fantasy Beauty Sleepers. Thanks to the Ravens. And Austin Eckler, where did that come from? I'm juiced up about him.
So jaded up about it. Yeah, mine didn't go that well, and I have a lot of these guys on my team, so I double dipped. Sam Darnold, low yards per attempt, 175 yards, touchdown. He looked okay. Kalen Ballage, just
oof.
Oh man.
Well, it's because that team is just. Oh, we'll get to them later, or maybe not.
Maybe it might be hashtag canceled. Honestly, Curtis Samuel, yikes. Austin Hooper, cool. Good amount of catches. But
no, he's your guy. Like he's the safest one in that group because he looked great, and the Falcons didn't look great, so they kind of leaned on him when they needed somebody.
Yeah, and you forgot to mention your bonus, Ito Smith, pretty much split carries with Devontae Freeman. My bonus is Devin Singletary. Get him the ball more. That's all I'm gonna say.
He was scaring me every time he touched the ball against the Jets. I was like, "Oh, we're so fucked." This guy is like, that guy is so much better than late stage career LaShawn McCoy and Frank Gore. It was their whole offense is really Devin Singletary and John Brown. So it's sneaky good there.
Yep. Rob, how you feeling about yours?
I feel horrible.
Rob actually didn't fare too badly.
Yeah. Let's recap it. Browns wide receivers for quarterback. Didn't really throw any passes to this week for you. Matt Breida.
Nice.
Could be taking
over
for
call.
Yeah. Could be taking over for Tevin Coleman now. Deshaun Hamilton remains to be seen. We're recording this before that Monday night game. David Njoku had a touchdown. Bonus Bob Wiley. I think he's out of work. Still.
That's always good.
Yeah.
All right, so I take the crown for week 1 of the Beauty Sleepers.
Oh yeah.
And as long as Melvin Gordon's not playing, I might be taking the crowd, barring some OBJ touchdown magic. Okay, other fantasy podcasts will do a stock market or they'll do some sort of currency issue. We're going to buy the dip. And when we say buy the dip, we mean BTFD, buy the effing dip. And we start with that literally. Our dip of the week is hummus. And there's a lot we can unpack here with hummus. I'm just going to throw out that my favorite vehicle for consumption is pretzels. But I understand that might be an unpopular opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to go pita chips.
Ooh,
they're so crunchy. It's hard to eat them in public.
Are pretty killer.
And I actually, in fact, I just got, these are weird, but I got cheddar pita chips, like cheddar baked pita chips. And I don't like those, but I got it with hummus tonight. I was snacking on that before we recorded. So
nice.
I like a nice supremely spicy hummus with the whole grain Tostitos scoops.
Yeah, those are great.
Seems to be a trend over there. Those whole grain scoops. That's great.
Did you say supremely spicy?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Sabra brand. I know it very well.
Supremely spicy Sabra.
Is that actually the name of it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome. I thought I was going to ask you to explain what is supremely spicy compared to spicy.
Yeah, no, I'm not just making this stuff up.
I could have sworn you were. I also like pine nut.
That's really a poor take.
Yeah, my family agrees with you because they get the huge tub of pine nut hummus, but for me, I'm a roasted red pepper guy.
Your family sounds very smart.
Give me the roasted red pepper hummus and give me those like flat pretzel chips. You know those things I'm talking about? Give me those. Give me that combo all
the Fletzels.
Day. Yes, exactly. The Fletzels.
The Fletzels.
That's the next elevation of Taco Bell innovation there.
What exactly is going on in the pine nut hummus? That's my question.
I mean, honestly, it doesn't taste that much different than regular hummus.
What's happening in there?
And it's just some crunch to it. That's really all it is.
There's some crazy oil they put in there too. I don't even know what it is, but it just tastes so good.
The oil is I don't know what the oil is, and they have some I gotta look it up now. They have some
spice in there. Some spices.
Yeah, some spice. It's like parsley or something. It's good.
One of the best things about hummus is you can go healthy with hummus too. You can have it with carrots. Somebody put in our Google Doc also throw in some celery. I'm gonna call the police on you because that's a terrible call. But carrots, I think, are the best way to go if you're gonna go healthy.
I don't know why you're such a anti-celery. You guys are an anti-celery pod. I don't get it.
It's just so stringy and disgusting.
Because what does celery have to offer anyway?
I didn't shit on your supremely spicy hummus, okay? I just shit on the name of it. But what does it have to offer?
I just don't
I
take
know.
it personally.
It's a good question. Very good question.
I'm just saying, objectively, celery has nothing to offer. It has no calories. It has no good taste. The texture is just so, like, you're never done chewing it.
Scott, you have 5-second rebuttal. What do you have to say for
I just
celery?
think it's very subjective to say it has no taste. That's your opinion, and I don't agree with it. So,
Well, if it has a taste, it's bad.
well, that's also your opinion. So, fuck
All
off.
right, we're going to table this one, and we're going to throw it back into the ether at another point. But let's look at buying the dip on some players out there and some situations. I'm going to throw this out first. I think the Browns players, they're going to sort it out, but people are going to freak out because they did not play well against the Titans. And give me all the Browns you got. Give me all of them, because I think they're going to really find their groove. Week 1 is weird. It's weird for every team. And for the Browns, it was weird in a bad way. I think the Browns are a team that you definitely should target if you're looking for trades.
Yeah. Falcons passing game, I'd rather buy the dip more on the Browns players like Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, who had a touchdown and a couple of catches. But Falcons passing game, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan, Austin Hooper, they should be fine too. This is a tough matchup. Week 1's always weird, like you said. But I'm buying them too.
It's going to be hard to kind of pry those guys away. So you might be, 1 or 2 more bad weeks away from actually getting a deal done with those guys. But keep that on the radar, because if they continue to start slow, I think you could really get a nice value out of those offenses. I'm going to throw out some running backs too. Aaron Jones, Miles Sanders, Kerryon Johnson, David Montgomery. I see these guys all in very similar boats. They're sort of in timeshares, but they're clearly the most explosive players in the backfield. They had terrible week 1s. Some of them were okay, carry on a decent game, but those are guys you want to get as cheap as possible, and I don't think they'll ever be cheaper than after a bad week 1. Somebody might just be freaking out, and you can take advantage of that.
Yep, completely agree. Aaron Jones had a really tough matchup against a stout Bears defense. Miles Sanders should have done a lot more, but I feel like they're going to figure it out in a couple weeks that Jordan Howard shouldn't be getting the ball, and Darren Sproles is 35 years old. Kerryon Johnson salvaged his day at the end. He had 11 carries for 21 yards up until late in the I think it was actually the fourth quarter. And CJ Anderson, same thing. Like, they should figure out that they shouldn't give the ball to CJ Anderson. And then David Montgomery, weird game for the Bears. He should turn around. I think one guy also to buy the dip on, or to target at least, is Malcolm Brown on the Rams.
Yes.
Clearly, Ty Gurley is not 100%, or they don't trust him around the goal line right now with his bad knees. And all offseason, there was so much talk about it. And there was also a lot of hype about Darrell Henderson, myself included. And then we kind of came full circle there. Did a 180. Henderson, 1 carry. Malcolm Brown, 2 goal line touchdowns. So I'd pick him up immediately if you have Gurley, and even if you don't. And then O.J. Howard on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just a bad day overall for that passing game. But I feel like O.J. Howard will be a guy that'll turn it around. He did last year.
I love Malcolm Brown, and we're gonna talk about the waiver wire guys in a little while, but he's a guy that if he's out there on your waiver wire, I think you have to snap him up, especially if you're a Todd Gurley owner at this point, because he's clearly the guy you want. I mean, he was only on the field for like 19 snaps, but he got 11 carries, 2 goal line carries. They clearly, when he's in the game, they're using him, so he's a guy you want. And he was great last year until he got hurt, so keep your eye on him. Let's look at a couple guys you might want to sell high on. Tariq Cohen. First off, I just talked about how Mitch was almost our hashtag canceled guy of the year or the week. Maybe not the year. That's pretty lofty.
Maybe both.
Maybe both. But I mean, Cohen, you really are not counting on him to run the ball whatsoever. He didn't run the ball at all this week. Every piece of production you're getting from him is based on his receiving game, and it's still kind of unclear where he shakes out in that pecking order. Allen Robinson actually looked really, really good this week. Anthony Miller was hurt and just straight up not good this week. So with everyone going full tilt, I don't know where Cohen fits in. He might be the odd man out, especially because David Montgomery looks like he can catch the ball to the backfield as well.
And the coach mentioned he was going to limit the amount of touches that Cohen got.
Yeah.
So once Anthony Miller is not hurt and Anthony Miller only played 15 snaps Thursday night, and they were basically plugging Cohen into the slot because of that. So once Miller comes back and takes over the slot, I think Mike Davis is a huge killer for him too.
Yeah.
He had about 9-10 touches. So A couple other guys, I wouldn't sound the alarm yet, but do we think that, obviously, I think we both do, the values of Mark Ingram and Chris Carson season long are enough to keep them on our lineups instead of sell high, because they both had 2 touchdowns each, so that's not going to happen every week. And Mark Ingram, part of that trouncing by the Dolphins, 59-0. So what do we think on these two guys?
I think it's still too early to sell high on them. I definitely want to keep them around as long as possible because I think they're both in really, really good situations and teams that clearly want to run the ball. Despite the fact that the Ravens just like threw the ball all over the Dolphins. I think that's kind of going to be the way things go for the Dolphins rather than how things go for the Ravens. I would keep these guys around, and if you do want to sell high, wait a couple more weeks because their stock is going to continue to climb, I think, in the next couple weeks.
For sure. I agree.
All right, let's look at the waiver wire. Scott, who's sticking around here? Because obviously a lot of these guys are going to get picked up, and what I'm really interested in is who out of that group is going to continue to be on rosters throughout the whole year, because this is really the most important week. This week, week 2 and week 3, that's when the biggest waiver wire acquisitions come in. So out of all those guys, we mentioned a lot already. Who's sticking around in your book?
Yeah, and keep in mind, every single Tuesday, we're going to release on our Instagram story waiver wire guys to pick up. So moving forward, check our Instagram stories out on Tuesdays. And again, this is Wednesday where this is being released, so waivers are already in. But for you to feel good about your pick or to keep them around or maybe drop someone that you just picked up and pick someone else up, I'm going to say sticking around. We talked about Deshaun Jackson, Hollywood Brown, John Ross. Those guys are sticking around. A couple of guys that we didn't talk about yet. Giovanni Bernard, the backup to Joe Mixon. I think he's sticking around for now. He took over when Joe Mixon got hurt. Mixon's ankle should be fine, like we said, but Bernard is an immediate pickup. TJ Hawkinson on the Lions, tight end.
Love him.
Jeez.
He's my number one.
That came out of nowhere, kind of. I mean, Rookie tight ends, like, they're never that productive, but this guy's a beast. And Matt Stafford looked for him early and often, so pick him up, sticking around. And then Michael Gallup, 7 catches, 158 yards, feasted on the New York Giants. With Amari Cooper being the number 1 guy, Gallup is a really solid number 2 to pick up here.
Yeah, and I would keep in mind that things went pretty much as well for Dallas as they possibly could have.
Yeah, true.
You know, Amari Cooper went off, Zeke had a touchdown, Dak had a sparkling game. He had a touchdown to Randall Cobb and the ageless Jason Witten. Shout out to that meme out there of that like 90-year-old guy running down in the flag football game, aka Jason Witten. So I don't think that this is going to be every week for Gallup, but if he's the guy that moves the sticks for them and he can feast on number 2 corners, he might be a guy that, you know, is a really useful flex, especially when the bye weeks start. I wouldn't go crazy and expect him to be, you know, putting up 150 yards every week. I don't think that's realistic.
I completely agree.
All right, let's look at who's fizzling out. And these are guys that, unfortunately, you're probably going to pick up and get really excited about, but I think they're going to wind up right back on the waiver wire. 2 sets of teammates here. I think Adrian Peterson, look, yeah, he's the ageless wonder. Maybe he'll have a couple nice weeks, but I think Darius Geis will be back eventually, and he will steal that backfield back from Peterson. No, he's not going to be around for long. And Terry McLaurin, we already talked about, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse there.
Great name, dude. Sick. DJ Chark and Chris Conley, 2 teammates as well, fizzling out. It's just, at a certain point, they have a backup quarterback now. I forget his name even.
Gardner Minshew.
There you go.
He actually looked good.
Talk about a great name. Gardner Minshew, man.
Pick him up.
Backup quarterback, though, it's not going to sustain. They needed to throw it a ton against the Chiefs. So Chark and Conley, I think the 2 guys out. D.D. Westbrook should be the number 1 guy there.
Love that. So here's what we need to do now. There's a lot of guys that we want to pick up. And what if I told you there was a way you could trade 2 of your shitty bench players for somebody like, I don't know, maybe Malcolm Brown and TJ Hawkinson? How does that sound to you? I think it sounds pretty effing good.
Great.
And here's the shrewd move you need to make in order to do that. This is 2-for-1 season, and all the best fantasy owners are going to be trying to just float a bunch of these deals out. They're not expecting almost any of them to get picked, but if they do, you're in good shape. So essentially what a 2-for-1 deal is, you package together 2 of your bench guys, or maybe your lower level starters, maybe 1 of each, and all you're looking for is 1 good player from the other team and 1 of their guys that they're probably going to drop. So, for example, if someone has Darrell Henderson or Geronimo Allison or Anthony Miller on their bench, Jameis Winston, you're going to offer two of your bench guys that might be viable, and you're going to try to get the best player in the deal, so he's clearly better than your two bench guys, and then a throwaway. And that deal's going to look somewhat even on paper, but at the end of the day, you're just going to cut that player that you get sent back and pick up somebody that you want on waivers. You might even do this after the waiver period. And essentially, you get two guys you want, and you get rid of two lesser pieces at the same time. So that is, in essence, what you want to do, especially early in the year, because the waivers are so valuable early in the year. Think about George Kittle last year, Phillip Lindsay. Those are the types of guys that were on waiver wires. If you pick a guy up like that, and you do so in a 2-for-1 trade, maybe you go for like a Devin Singletary type. You're going to be sitting pretty if you pull a couple of those off.
Couldn't agree more. Having said that, talk about Drop City really quickly. Segment every week. Anthony Miller, 15 snaps.
Yuck.
Could probably drop him. Geronimo Allison, 30 snaps, 0 catches. Marquez Valdez-Scantling looks like the second guy there. Darrell Henderson, 1 carry. Nothing impressive. Malcolm Brown is the backup there. Jameis Winston, probably pretty close to Drop City here, too.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, Tom Brady's out there on some people's waiver wire. Like, clearly, I want him over Jameis Winston just on a consistency basis. And there's even guys like Kirk Cousins who, only threw 10 passes, but still salvaged a 14-point fantasy game. I mean, things are going to go up for him. They might be a run-first offense now, but Kirk Cousins is going to put up some numbers. And if Jameis is going to go, score 6 fantasy points and then 30 and then 3, like, you can't count on that week to week.
All right, let's talk about Thursday night preview. So it is Wednesday, and our next episode, we will not have a chance to talk about the Thursday night game. So this week, we got the Bucks at the Panthers. So let's talk team by team. Bucks, Jameis is not a buy low candidate, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree with that, Sean.
Probably not. I mean, maybe like if you have like a really solid QB1 and you maybe you drafted Mahomes or you're counting on Rodgers and you think he'll be fine and you want to cut your QB2 loose in a trade, maybe then you go for Jameis. But I don't know. I'm not really loving what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, I think one guy to pick up if he's around in your league though is Ronald Jones. Bulked up in the offseason. Looks like he finally figured out how to stay on the field. And he had 13 carries and 75 yards.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And you know what? Different offensive coordinator or offensive play caller means they're actually probably going to try to use the running game at some point during the year. So, just by the law of averages, that running game, even if it's way below average, it won't be like the worst in the league like it has been. So he's a guy you might want to take a flyer on right now.
Yeah. And then let's talk about the pass catchers on the Bucks. We got Evans, Godwin, Howard. Godwin did pretty well. Evans did absolutely horribly, but was sick apparently on Sunday and questionable going into the game. Howard was nothing like that, but I think this is a more of a indication that Jameis was that bad and just doesn't know how to play football, unlike a rookie. And I feel like they're going to regress back to positive, even though the Panthers' defense is pretty solid. They have Dante Action Jackson as their number 1 cornerback and a couple other solid guys. But you can't bench Evans, you can't bench Godwin or Howard, so keep on playing them. On the other side, the Panthers, Cam Newton, not great. What's that?
I mean, this is Christian McCaffrey's offense now. So
yeah,
the offense is going to go through him. He's going to catch the ball like close to 10 times a game, apparently, and he's going to run the ball. He's going to run the ball really effectively too, including now in the red zone, which I think is crucial for fantasy purposes for McCaffrey, but also is really important for the Panthers to keep Cam healthy. Kind of offloading what used to be Cam's rushing goal line stuff to McCaffrey is so important for them, and it's just great for McCaffrey owners. And it sucks for Cam owners, to be honest, because he doesn't have the arm to really keep up with the guys that he's being drafted around. So I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be great this week. Don't get me wrong, because the Bucks can't stop a nosebleed. But season long, I'm not really thrilled owning Cam just because he gets hurt a lot. And again, like the rushing floor seems to be decreasing a little bit. Obviously, he'll have some spikes, but if you're a Cam owner, you want him to run the ball 10 times a game in the red zone, you know?
If anything, this is the week to play him and then sell him high because the Bucs defense can't stop a thing. And
absolutely.
It sucks for his pass catchers because Curtis Samuel just didn't do anything last week. DJ Moore's the guy to own, if anything, 7 catches last week. It's still a little too early to say. I shouldn't say that, but both these guys should level out eventually. This is a good week for both of them. So you need to play Curtis Samuel as a flex guy. Maybe he's a flex Friday candidate. Don't feel bad about it. Defenses, stay away from both, I would say.
Yuck. Well, I see the Panthers absolutely trouncing the Bucs in this game. I think they're going to be a little pissed off because they lost that close game to the Rams. They're at home for the second week in a row, and I think they're a lot better than people kind of thought they were. I don't think the Bucs are quite there yet. I think the Bucs seem like the type of team that'll win a couple crazy games later in the season and kind of surprise some people, but for right now, they're just going to take a beating.
I agree with that. All right, well, that does it for our week 1 recap. Rough and weird-ass week, honestly.
Wonky week. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. I'm looking at a solid 1-4 in my 5 teams, so that's just sick. That's awesome. I love that.
It's always good. I'm looking at either 1-2 or 2-1, depending on. I have Alvin Kamara and Kaimi Fairbairn, Texans kicker, trying to erase an 11-point deficit. I think I just crossed the threshold, and hopefully nobody fumbles or misses a kick, and then I'm good to go.
That away. That's an elite name. Talk about Terry McLaurin.
Oh, yeah.
Kaimi Fairbairn. I feel like Traquan Smith is a cool name, too. We're watching that game right now, the Saints-Texans.
Oh, yeah. So week 1, just don't overreact. That's really the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Don't overreact and make a trade, because if you make a trade right now, you're asking for trouble. And don't overreact in terms of feeling too up or too low, too high or low about your team, because things will equalize. After week 1 last year, Chris Thompson was a top 5 running back, and Randall Cobb was the second wide receiver.
Great point.
You can't take this stuff seriously. We can't even really take it seriously in any week, but especially week 1 of the 2019 season. So don't overreact, but you definitely want to get active in those on the waiver wire and throw some names out into the ether, because you might find the next George Kittle, cough, cough, TJ Hawkinson, or maybe a nice breakout wide receiver like Hollywood Brown.
Find us in channels.
Love Moss.